Well guys, I'm cruising in the 86. I was going down the main drag in our city. And the car kind of bucked a couple times. And I thought, is it stalling? I'm looking at my fuel pressure. Did it lose pressure? Like, what's going on here? So I pushed it off the main street, pulled over. It took right off, thank God. And I drove it a few blocks. A buddy phoned me, so I pulled over to answer the phone. So the car had a few minutes to cool down. But it just reminds me, when the 92 Mustang GT I had, when the TFI went on it, it bucked. Like, it's almost like you shut the ignition off for a second or two. Then I'm driving a little more, and then I could kind of feel it just buck a little bit. And then the car quit. And the same thing happened on the 92. So the TFI module in this car is probably old as hell, like super old. And I'm banking that, here we go, here's another video. And I'm gonna try firing it up and see if it'll get me home. Come on. Okay, I'm gonna put the phone down. We're gonna try and get home and see what happens. So I gotta try and drive this thing so I can not have to worry about hitting stoplights and stuff. Well, it's running. I took it down the highway to let it cool off. Thought I'd hit the weigh scales. That's with half a tank of fuel and without me in it, so multiply that by 2.2. That's not overly heavy. Anyways, I better head home. Late for supper, I'm gonna be in trouble again, so wish me luck. I think the cooler air on the highway helped, but I'm gonna probably change that TFI module just in case. I think that's what it is. Hey guys, I was just cruising in the 86. The clip before this was about a week or two earlier. I'm driving it and I could just feel it's like the ignition shut off for a second and the car just kind of died for like a quarter of a second and picked back up. And you'll feel that. It's almost like you're turning the ignition on and off like super quick. So that could be the symptoms of an ignition module going. So what I did, here's what I did. So I got a spare ignition module, and it's a good thing to get ones that put some regular screws in. I think some of them come with either like a Torx head or something different than just a regular Phillips screw, but luckily it just happened on the street. I'm going to change it on the fly. So what I did do is I marked my distributor. You can't really see it, but I marked a little line on there so my timing stays in. And I gotta turn the distributor a little bit so I could get the last screw out. And these modules, they slide down, so go down. Don't try pulling it right off. It has to go down and then it'll come away. So I'll swap it out. We'll see if the car will run after that. So I got the ignition module out. This isn't even a Motorcraft one, and I've had this in the car probably since about 2003. So that's crazy. It's lasted that long. I've never ever had to do an ignition module. But let's face it, to change it on the fly, all you need is basically a 1/2-inch wrench or a distributor wrench with a bend in it, a screwdriver, and your module. Could save you from having to call a tow truck. So we'll slide this other module in, see if it'll fire up. Okay, we'll tighten the distributor down. I'll line those marks up the best I can, and we'll see if we got some power. I got a spare distributor with me, so worst comes to worst, if we gotta put a distributor in, so be it. Let's see if it'll fire up. fails, it's probably going to be a coil or the profile ignition pickup. So it's not happy yet. I don't know if it was a TFI module, guys. I'll let it idle for a bit and see what happens. Okay, I made it home. The car was like a lean backfire, a lean pop. And I'm gonna try the coil. The only thing I can think of after that is the profile ignition pickup in the distributor. So we'll throw a coil on it because that's pretty easy to do. And if that's not it, we'll try a different distributor. So stay tuned. Okay, I grabbed the coil. Something I just found out. I remember I was talking about the screws that hold the TFI on. Well, I see this is filed down, this socket, and it's a 7/32. So this 7/32 socket might be the one. So the little bolts that hold the TFI on may be a 7/32 from factory or in some applications. And 7/32 also takes these guys off. Oops. That's all she wrote. Well, we'll see if it fires up, how it runs. This coil, if I'm not mistaken, this was a Jacobs ignition coil that I probably bought 25 years ago. Well, let's see if it's gonna fire, because it was just not running the greatest. As much as the new cars are totally amazing, like they are, as much as I'm old school, I know that the newer everything are miles ahead of this car, but I like how I could still fix it on the side of the road if you have the parts. Here we go. For any of the SN95 guys out there, their TFI modules are in the right-hand inner fender apron. And I notice they got a heat sink on it. I think some Foxbody guys have converted it to one of these so you can put it out of the line of fire of heat. So that's a possible upgrade that might be worth looking at. So the SN95 ones are right down there. Well, I guess I'll try taking it for a spin. And if this doesn't do it, we'll be doing a distributor swap. Probably be the profile ignition pickup. And you know, honestly, it's time for a new distributor in this car, no matter what, because the old one is old. Yeah, the tach is dropping. Definitely ignition related. Come on, guys, do it one more time for me. Well, at least I'm just I'm basically in front of my house. Well, I'm guessing PIP ignition. Jeez, if I could coast into my driveway. Lucky me. Lucky me. Yeah. Yeah, the tach would just instantly drop. So we know it's not fuel, and I suspected an ignition, so I have another distributor. I'm going to, because of the SDS computer system in here, the little wheel in the top of the inside of the distributor has to be, it's modified, so I'll just swap it from my other distributor, my new distributor. And also, what else? The new distributor I have, I didn't pick up a high-end distributor, and they said that the distributor gear is steel, like compatible with a roller cam. But you know what, for the 5 minutes it'll take to change it, I think I'll just change the gear to my original gear, providing it looks good, which I'm pretty sure it does. And I just don't want to take a chance, because who wants to replace a camshaft or destroy a gear and get a bunch of crap in your motor for no reason over even 15 minutes worth of work. So I made it in the driveway. Yeah, we're going to switch the distributor. The car, it just wasn't running crisp. It was running kind of about 75 or 80% as good as it could. So just before the ignition, before the tach dropped right down to zero, it was just, the car felt mushy. Like, it's almost like you had a rag stuck in the around the air filter or something just to muffle it. It wasn't working good. So let's throw a distributor in, see what happens. Keep you posted. Got the power off in the car. I'm going to get some brake clean and just clean up the bottom of that distributor so I could scribe it good, so I could see it. This little guy right here, where the rotor goes on, that's specific for an SDS. That had to be modified, so I'll just swap that over. Okay, even though I marked the rotor position and stuff, I failed to realize I'm putting a whole different distributor in, but I'm going to eyeball it. I'll take a picture of it, and that'll give me some idea how to configure everything. Okay, on my cheap distributor, I just popped out the roll pin. Now check this out. See, it's just one little tiny roll to it. Now here's, I'm using a distributor gear from a known Ford roller cam distributor, but this actually has a few rolls to it. If you're ever in a pinch, I would still put in the heavier roll pin. This one, it'll do the job if it's just a daily driver, but if you're revving this thing, I'd rather have something like that in there. I'm going to pop off that distributor gear, and then with the SDS, the what is it, a reluctor wheel or whatever you want to call it, the rotor is phased a little differently. So I'm going to switch that over to the new distributor and clean up the rotor a bit. Okay, we got the distributor back in. We're going to set the timing with the SDS. I think the spout connector has to come out on this too. I better read up on that. We're all done setting the timing. I set it to 12 degrees. Then the spout connector did have to come out, just like on a stock configuration. Now I think we should go take it for a spin. Well, it's old pleasant self. It's driving nice and crisp. We'll get a bit more heat in it and see if it acts up or not. But yeah, so far so good. Well guys, looks like that's what it was. I made it home safe and sound. I had the car out for probably over an hour, and even though it's not quite as warm now as it was earlier today, it still had a good opportunity for the heat to get into it. So here's the old distributor, and I'm going to end up rebuilding this just to have a spare. So right here, for those of you who don't know, that's the profile ignition pickup. So when that little wheel spins around, it kind of triggers it when to spark. Of course, here's our TFI ignition module. This one has some screws in it, Phillips head screws. And like I said, the other ones have a hex head from factory on some of them. And sometimes if the bushings go inside these things and you get a bunch of filings flying around, they get in between that, I don't know if you call it a reluctor wheel or something. Anyways, it throws off the triggering, and then it doesn't want to spark properly. And then, you know, see how it spins. Remember that a roller cam requires a special gear. A melamized gear, or one that's made for billet steel. A cast iron gear will not work. A bronze gear will. And yeah, so this isn't the first time we've seen a distributor go south. So for any of you guys that want to do a road trip with your car, highly recommend a coil. It's cheap, easy to change. TFI ignition module, or just a whole distributor. It really takes a matter of a couple minutes to pop one in. And this is stuff that you just can't buy at the parts store. And if you're cruising on a weekend or in the evening, you know, this could save you from getting a tow truck. So anyways, that's my experience with having a TFI module go on me, I think, or a distributor go on me. I can't really pin it down to, it's not the TFI, it was probably the profile ignition pickup. So if you notice inconsistencies in your ignition system where you're driving it and the car just kind of dies for a second and you know, it just does it a couple times, that's a good chance that something on your distributor or ignition system is on its way out, and you could kind of plan your way in traffic. I actually had to push my car. I was on the main drag in our city. I actually had to push it off the main drag onto a side street, and thank God it wasn't too busy. So it'll help you plan your cruising, get off to a safe spot, get that changed. And hey, these cars are getting older. They're when they get older, stuff starts to happen, just like people. So anyways, hope this helps somebody out. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you in the next video. Cheers.